Hello, welcome back to Pixel Perfect, episode 63. My name is Okada, and today we are trying to wrap up on our Turbo Motors mini-series. Yeah, there's still a lot left to be done, but I think we've done enough on camera for the build of the building. And there's still some structural things to be done, but we're going to turn it on today and start making turbo motors. Now, I know it's been a couple of weeks since we published a Satisfactory episode. I've actually been quite ill, and my voice is still recovering. And I don't know, hopefully I don't sound too much like Barry White anymore. But I feel like I'm finally at a point to where I can more or less clearly record, and I've got the coughing more under control, though I'm still struggling with it a bit. So if there are some weird audio cuts, then it might be because I'm having a coughing fit and needed to cut that out. But enough about that. We have a lot to do if we want to get the turbo motors online today. And the first thing we need to do is we need to start with our home train station. So I'll meet you up there. All right, here we are back at our familiar home station, with our warehouse right here. And our problem number one for getting the turbo motors up and running is that we need a station here to interact with the turbo motors. And we've discussed this in the past that at the turbo motor facility, we have a little bit different situation, right? All of the train stations there only have 3 platforms. And so we don't have this full 5 platforms to work with. It's kind of necessitated by the size of the buildings. And that's fine, but the problem is that we don't have a station here with 3 open slots at the front. Arguably we could use this one, but this is our personal train station here that we use for all of our projects. So this is never meant to be part of an automated station. So no, we need to add a new station. And we've talked about it on and off, and there have been some thoughts about what we could do with the space that we have. And it really came down to a couple of most likely candidates. First we have the ability to maybe split off this line here and cram in a tiny station here. We're only talking about a 3-length station, 4 if you're counting the front of the station. And if we put one there, then it could end somewhere up over here. And if we come over here, what it could do is wrap around and just run right along here and go connect with that loop. And that would be a way for it to go down. The other option was, of course, to extend this way out and add a whole nother station over here on this side, which would give us the opportunity to add another 5-length station, but also would be really hanging out. And honestly, I'm not a big fan of it. Maybe it's something we could do in the future, but I think today the best option is that we go ahead and build the station over here, which will make it really easy for us to run all the products right up to here. You see, we can bring in the radio controlled units right here, and we can just simply bring the fuse modular frames right here. And as we mentioned, building it here kind of makes it a little compact. There's not enough space for all 3 of the platforms, but that's okay, because when I did a little bit of a deeper analysis of our train network and everything that was going on with it, I noticed another opportunity, which is that over here we have this station, which is the drop-off for aluminum casings. And I noticed that the train coming from the aluminum manufacturing plant, was showing up full, which meant that it wasn't making the trip quickly enough in order to keep up with the production rate. That's causing a backup of the aluminum casings back at the aluminum facility. So that gives us an opportunity to bring another train into this. And as you can see here, we have a station that is mostly unused because this was going to the space elevator. So what we can do is we can have another train that is dedicated purely to going to the Illuminati as a supplemental train to pick up the rest of the aluminum casing, hop right on over to the turbo motor factory, pick up the turbo motors, and drop both of them off here at home. And that will be its only purpose. That'll allow it to bounce back and forth quickly enough to make sure that the casings are being delivered on time. And we're not going to be producing turbo motors fast enough for that to be a backup concern. So I think that's going to work out swimmingly. That does mean that we will have one station at the turbo motor plant that's doing double duty, but that's not a big deal. It won't take too long for it to come in and go out. It does also mean that this will be a 5-link train parking into a 3-link station, but that also won't matter because that's going to be the final station in the chain, which means that the cars that are hanging out won't get in the way of other trains coming in. So that's super easy. But enough of that. Let's get to the turbo motor facility so you can see all the progress I've made while I've been offline and sick, and hopefully start producing turbo motors. So I'll meet you guys there. All right, here we are back at the job site for turbo motors. Still gotta clean up all the temporary stuff, but that's something we'll do when we're, done. There she is. Ooh, almost plummeted to my death. Yeah, she still isn't skinned yet, but she should be ready to turn on, more or less. We still need to set all the trains going, but I do believe I already have them set up with the correct schedules to them. So we're gonna get down here real quick, to the train stations. Over here. It'll be nice when we clean all this up too. I'll need to move that, but I'll wait until the building's actually skinned. Then I'll worry about it. All right, here we go. So each one of the train stations already has a train set up. I'll need to go back and paint the train cars later on. I'll do that once there's actually stuff on them because you can't see the colors yet, and I prefer to have stuff on them so we can actually see them. But I did theme all of the train locomotives the same so that they all match in that sense. So that if we ever see them running around, we know that they belong to the turbo motor location. And I went with a blue and a yellow stripe. The blue because it's in the mist with the waterfall, and the yellow for the turbo motors because the turbo motors are black and yellow. And I've started toying around with a pattern for the exterior, and I'm kind of liking this. This is it's got a faded blue to it for the waterfalls and the kind of mist area, and for the mist effect. And if we go inside, it's kind of cool from the inside, being able to look at it. It's huge, but it's a big building, so it's a nice kind of a pattern to it. And I might end up putting walls or like windows, as the interior along with them. I haven't decided yet. We'll see. But I think that I want to go with this pattern. I'll toy with it a bit. It's not really important for what we're doing right now. Hopefully I'll get that done by the end of the episode, but you don't need to see me placing them. It's not going to be that exciting. Plus, in the mist, you really don't see much of it at all anyway. So what we're going to need to do is I think we're going to do one at a time. We're going to follow them. And the reason for this is because we've been working on this project for months now. And one of the very first things we did was to establish the resource intake. All the resource nodes and everything were all set up first so that we'd know where things were going or where we were going to bring things in, make sure we'd had enough. So, since then, we've done a lot of work, and these trains are bringing in more than one product. Well, the water isn't. Well, the water kind of is, right? Because there's going to be packaged water on one car, and there's going to be the empty containers on the other one. And same goes for all these, right? The coal and deuterium and so forth. And, I want to make sure that we have them lined up properly, right? This first car here is clearly going to coal, at least on this side. I'm pretty sure I got all these right, but, we got to make sure of that, right? So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually ride with them, each one of them in turn, and make sure they're picking up the right things in the right order. And then I'll ride them back, and I think that, maybe that'd be a good opportunity for us to paint them as well. So, we'll just get a little clip of us doing that. But we have all of them here, and like I said, if we look at, the train, we already have the schedules set, and we have, the loadings and unloadings all set. So hopefully all of this is correct. And I've noticed that the backpack, you see it doesn't work now. I have to get in and out every other time for it to fix and break itself. And one other thing that we need to do is for the water loop, of course, we need empty containers, and this is something that we don't need to continually replenish. We just need one injection of them. So I brought a bunch of plastic in, had a bunch of machines here, and just made a ton of empty bottles here. And what we need to do is inject them into the system. Let's grab a belt. And I make sure that this is the right one. And we'll just change this to empty container. Actually, there's one right there. Boom. Perfect. Canister. You know what? That's all right. We'll leave it like that. Perfect. In the philosophy I've followed with all of these buffers, and you'll run into some people who swear that buffers are a bad idea, and you know what? Everyone should play the way they want to play. But when it comes to train stations, I feel like buffers are very important, since when a train arrives, it shuts off the importing and exporting of product to and from the station. So it's good to have a buffer on either side, and that's what we've done. So we have Mark V belts in all cases when we're interacting with a station. So that's Mark V. Whoop, that should be Mark V. There we go. It matches with that. Let's check this here. Mark 1. Good thing we checked that. Perfect. But you'll have Mark 3 you see here going out because that's the rate that we need for the actual product. But Mark 5 when it's interacting with the station so that it loads or unloads the station as quickly as possible. That's the whole point to having a buffer. So the product won't sit in the train station, it'll sit in the buffer. But we need to actually have some canisters in the buffer or in the train station itself in order for it to deliver so they can start getting filled up with water. So we're going to let that start to do its thing. And we're going to begin, actually I think we're going to begin on the end of the line. So none of these should be sticking out and get in the way. No. You know, they're not that long, but there is one that's long. Yeah, there it is. See, that was sticking out in the way. So actually we're going to start in front because then we can get this one knocked out. And when it gets back in docks, we'll be able to shut it off right there. And that way it's completely inside the station and we don't have to worry about getting in the way of any of the other ones. So we're going to start with nitrogen. Begin the montage. Nitrogen loaded successfully. That means those stations were set correctly. Arriving at the coal deuterium and looking at the paint jobs on the station. I'm guessing that we got it right. Coal in front, deuterium in back. Okay, now as we're arriving back, I've decided what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop these before they unload. Because I want to be able to follow them in the process to make sure the machines are, properly running. And I kind of need to be here as each thing unloads to follow it. So we're still going to ride the trains and make sure that they are loading to the correct cars, but we're going to keep them on the station and have them unload one at a time so we can actually follow what they're doing. But we can also make sure that these are set to unload. Set to unload. Perfect. So next we have copper, iron, and batteries. And hopefully that is set to unload because I didn't double check it. Actually, it would help if we had a third car on here. It looks like it's working now. Let's hop out here. Real quick like red and blue. Perfect. All right, looks like they're loading properly. Let's try to get ourselves some colors here. Boop. And iron, I think we just kind of go with one of these generics. That'll work for now. All right, so we've made our way back to turbo motors, and another mystery has been solved. When we got to the batteries, we were confused as to why we didn't have a third car in the back of it. That's because it left a third car behind. Oh, goodness. And as before, we're going to turn it off before it docks. I think we're going to go to water so that we can take the empty containers to the packaging facility so they can start filling up bottles of water for us while we're doing the last train. And I wanted to bring you in with that so that we can make sure that the packaging facility is working properly. Turn it off. I know we are holding up a train behind us. Shouldn't be here too long though. We just need to make sure all these things run. Start filling up those containers. There we go. 1, 2 working. Number 3 and 4. Excellent. And they're all going to the right place. This is set to load. All right. So we don't need to come back to here. Once we're ready, we will just send this train back without us, and it can pick up the water because we now know that the loop, at least on this side, is working properly. We saw it load the empty containers properly at the other side, so we just need to make sure that the water station at Turbo Motors is set to unload. All right, here's the first time we've ever had a train pull into this station. Brand new station at home. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit nervous. You know, we have a lot of congestion here already, and we don't have any deadlocks anymore. We've solved that. However, you know, we're adding 2 new trains to this. We're adding this one, and we're gonna add the one that's gonna be bringing the turbo motors here and the excess, and only one loaded, that's not good, and excess aluminum casings. And, you know, that's more and more. Why would this not be set to the same? Set to load? You guys saw that, right? It just decided not to load the second car. All right, all right. I was a little fast in setting my controls, and I set up the wrong modular frame. Yeah. All right, you know, I'm big enough to admit that sometimes even I can make a mistake. All right. Let's get back to the facility and get everything going. And we're back. Now, hopefully I got these 2 in the right order. We're gonna stop the train before it unloads. You know, I say right order, but honestly, it doesn't matter in this case because both of these items are going to the same assemblers. So these could be in any order. It really doesn't matter at all. So I guess we don't have to worry about these. Excellent, excellent indeed. And there's no third car to accidentally pick up the turbo motors when they're in the station. But we should check and make sure. Okay, those are set to load. Unload. Unload. All right. I think we're good. What we're gonna do is, I think, go ahead and send the water train because we don't need to ride with it. We know that it's set up. It needs to go pick up the full bottles. So let's send it on its way. And that's going to allow it to pick up another set of empty containers, which hopefully were full, which won't be a matter after they all get put into the system. You know, they're just slowly draining out of the storage containers and being put into the loop. All right. And we know this is good, so we can send it on its way. This is our nitrogen train. We don't need to do anything special with that. And we do have one more transport to set up, but we couldn't do anything with it yet because we need the batteries for it. So that's where we're going to start, I think. Right here. By letting this run first. Silly backpack. There we go. Everything's unloading. Excellent. And I need to make a little crafting bench real quick like. There's a portable miner. Grab this. Select a drone. Bob's your uncle. We have a drone. I don't imagine we're going to need more than one, but now we will have batteries coming in to power it. Don't know why I have batteries in my inventory, but you know what? Let's plop them down there. Remember how to set these drones up. Interact with drone port. Ah, yeah. Destination. Drone port. And that will come back to here, which it should do by default anyway. Don't run into the building. Go straight up, please. Awesome. That is going to look so cool from the outside, watching drones come in and out of the fog. Fantastic. Away he goes. Excellent. All right. So we already have the copper going into ingots. Perfect. So we know all the belts coming here are correct. Now these won't run yet because they don't have the water they're going to need. And we should have iron. There we go, iron. So all of that is running. And by the way, I didn't show you, but everything is nice and neatly wired up, and we have a ton of lights everywhere. So everything is nice and neatly lit. This is beautiful. This was ultimately how we set up the height of each floor, was so that the light would spread just enough. You see how we get the little circle there of darkness? It's perfect. So those two things are good. And the batteries, I believe, are good. Did we see any of them get delivered? Here, because we put some in manually. Yep, it's full. Perfect. Excellent. So that part is all correct. The water will hopefully be delivered anytime now if it's not already. I was watching the map for the water train, realized that we didn't actually name any of the trains, so that's going to be something we're going to have to do. But I saw the drone coming back ahead of it, so I wanted to fly up here and watch it come down. Oh, so cool. And so ideally, this is going to be full of bauxite. If it's not, then I'll be a little confused. So we have an empty storage container, which we should have. That's correct. Now, I did not set up a buffer for this. Really didn't have the space for it, but I don't think that's going to be an issue. Drop its load. Once you had a load to drop, that's a good sign. There's our bauxite. It's taking its batteries. Perfect. Excellent. That is working. All right, water train, where you at? There it comes. There goes the water. There are a bunch of extra containers I have here for stuff I needed. All that will be cleared up. So again, we're loading these into the buffer at Mark 5, and then it comes out at the speed that is needed for the machines. And that way the buffer can hold everything. And here goes the water. Perfect. Making water. Excellent. Sending the empty containers back out into the loop. And since we have bauxite, that means that we will now start to get aluminum solution. Now it's going to dead end there because we need coal for this next step. But we're getting the solution. Perfect. So let's get the coal train running. All right, coal and caterium are both unloading. So this is why we checked them all and set them here preloaded before the whole process, so that we could just have them do an unload one right after another. Boom, boom, boom. There goes the caterium. You can see it in the background. There goes coal. Let's follow that all the way up. So that's going to split over here to where we already have the iron ingots. And that's going to start to make steel ingots. And then up here, it'll get into here and start to make our aluminum scrap. hopefully we've got all our speeds correct. Mark 1, that doesn't seem right to me. Mark 4, that, I was gonna say, it didn't look right to me. I wouldn't be surprised if we find other little gaffes like that along the way. Now the coal is flowing. Steel ingots coming off the line. There, there. And we saw that the coal was making it into the aluminum scrap. There we go. Perfect. Aluminum scrap is going forward, being turned into aluminum ingots. They're coming up here, where they're being turned into empty fluid tanks. Should then be coming over here to be filled up with nitrogen. Perfect. Sure that's in both cases. Yep. Excellent. And that is going to head up further. All the way up here. All the way up here. Oh yeah, this is an end product, right? This is going to the final machines, I think. Oh my goodness, I missed a conveyor lift. I told you I would find at least one more, right? Did we miss on all of them? Nope, we got them on that one, we got them on that one. Okay, perfect. Though, it looks like we're missing a belt here. I totally know what I'm doing. Seriously. All right. And now that the water is flowing from the refinery, the overflow water should be heading over here to be turned into copper sheeting. Excellent. That's going up here. Notice I put the walkways around here. Looks like I still need to do it for that side. Copper sheeting's going up. And melding with screws. Now the screws are being made from those steel beams over here. Part of our steel line. There we go. There we go. Bunch of screws being made. Some more screws over there. Perfect. Yeah, here's the ingots being turned into steel beams. Excellent. And the rest of the steel is heading up here to be turned into steel pipe, which is then going up, up, over. Don't pay attention to this. This is just something I was playing with on, how we might want to make a wall here, because these aren't all lining up to where we would have conveyor walls. And I may not have any interior wall, just exterior. I haven't decided yet. We'll figure that out. But these are all heading over here to make our stators, combining with our quick wire, which seems to be coming in fairly slowly. But then again, we did just get the deuterium unloaded, and it's going to take time for all that to ramp up. But speaking of which, there's the deuterium wire. Oh yeah, this is going to take some time because there's a lot of machines here to be getting that deuterium. And we definitely need to get that backed up. So down here, I feel like we're not getting the ore fast enough. Or we just don't have enough of it because, we've only got one trip, one unload. So that might take a couple of trips of the train to get caught up. I think that this belt speeds are correct because you see these front ones here. Yeah, they're getting backed up, and it's going to just take time. And unload our big boys. Ooh! Oh, I just barely made that jump. The backpack isn't working. Oh my goodness. Out. Oh, they've got to fix that bug. Oh my goodness. Oh, that did not unload. Let's turn this off again. I bet you I chose the wrong frames at this location as well. I did it again. Goodness. Fused. There we go. And that is all the trains. And of course, you know, we have some intermediary steps that we need to verify with the motors and whatnot. Here we're making the stators. Beautiful. Yeah, everything's getting to where it needs to be. It's just going to be a matter of time of everything filling up. Follow the stators and rotors across. You can see the rotors are on their way up over there. Here we're making more stators to combine over here to make our motors. Which are outputting and going around. Looks like they're going to that corner. Yes, they are. Where they are arriving at the turbo motors. So all we need now are pressure conversion cubes, which should be coming down the line any moment now. Honestly, I would expect to see a little more activity at this point. There are the radio controlled units. And these are all Mark 1 belts, so it's a little slow because, you know, our per minute is very low on all of them. And if the radio controlled units are just now getting up here, then we know we're going to take a little while to get the fuse modular frames because they didn't dock the first time. So let's give it a second. All right, on the left there, through the glass, we can see the lift coming up. That means we have fuse modular frames. Perfect. Just siphon a couple off there. We only need one of them per minute. And conversion cube being made. We just have to wait a full minute for one to come off. Well, I have to wait a minute. You don't. All right, and our first pressure cube comes off the line. Probably be joined by a buddy here. There it goes. And they're going to follow over, come over, and meld and come across. And that'll be the last thing that we need to make our very first turbo motor. And we only need one of them in there. Even though we'll consume 1.8 per minute, it only takes one to start the process. However, we do need a few more stators, so those things need to get caught up. And as our first pressure cubes arrive, we can see down there that the other processes are starting to kick into gear as things get caught up. Oh yeah, a lot more activity on those belts. So which machine is going to get the privilege of producing our first? This one's ready to go. This one's probably still shy on stators. It is. And so is that one. I think our winner is going to be this guy right here. Because this one's further down the line. Even if it's ready, it's not going to get it first. Nope. Nope. This is going to be our winner. There it goes. Ding! Our building is successful. Yay! Oh, so much work has gone into this. But it is great to see it come to life. Oh, I am so excited about this. Oh, it produces two. All right, two at a time. Of course, we're using an alternate recipe. It's a little bit more efficient than the default one. Oh, look at that, look at that. Sneaky little guy. He didn't get to produce the first ones, but he got them out in front. So technically that guy was the winner. He was the first one to make them, but his get to go into storage first. We have some miners that we need to go back and upgrade to Mark III now that we have turbo motors. Now everything should still be running at full speed because we overclocked the Mark IIs to compensate for the speed that we need for the resources. But we're going to be able to go back and upgrade them to Mark III and reclaim those power shards. But that's something I'll do off of camera. I feel like I want to grab, this is the first one made. I'm going to put that down in the house, and that will be our first ever manufactured turbo motor. Maybe I'll do that in a future series where we, keep the first of everything. We'll see about that. It's going to be a while before I start another series. But let's high speed follow this back to make sure it's getting to the station. And there they go. We have success. All right. I need to do a lot of cleanup work here where I need to make sure everything's actually running at the speeds we expect. I need to start putting the exterior on, and I need to go through and make sure that we have blocking signals at appropriate distances to make sure that the trains aren't getting slowed down. So I will get back to you guys in a bit. I'm finishing up the loop here of the train that picks up the turbo motors and takes them home, along with the excess aluminum casing. Off and back on. Thank you. But this is, good grief. And lovely autosave. I had to get in the way of the summary here. And here is the final design of the buildings. And I am so ecstatic with the way they look. It's so good. I cannot begin to go over just how many hours and revisions this went through. Oh, look, there goes the drone. Rising up out of the mist. Check it out. Oh, it's so cool. Love it. I kind of wanted to have multiple drones just so that we could see them more often, but this one drone is more than sufficient for our needs. So he's alone. That's fine. We'll have more drones, I'm sure, and other projects later on. But the towers coming up out of the mist is this great, lattice work of the wall design. I love the way this came out. And the interior walls, honestly, the interior walls took me longer than the exterior walls. They kind of came together a little bit more quickly, and then I struggled with the interior walls because we have, conveyors going back and forth between them, and it didn't really feel like they were going to fit quite right with the way the conveyors were. But every time I looked at it without walls, it didn't look right. And it really lent itself to wanting to just, connect these across and just leave the inside empty. But then it wouldn't be two buildings. So I really struggled with it, and I did walls and windows and swapped them back and forth. And let's just head over there and get a closer look at it. There we go. So looking from the interior, it's kind of like a giant alleyway. You can look all the way up the buildings. The only place that we don't have walls are right here. Now, the pipe isn't technically in the way. We can always put a hole in there. But this is where the drone platform is at, and I don't know, it felt like this kind of needed to be open with the way it was kind of, sardined into here. And it felt better to leave this part open, and I'm okay with that. Get a little air through here. But we have a safe walkway, as you can see, so no danger there. Now what we did is, I wanted to have walls of some sort, but the way we had things here, this wasn't lining up with the interior flooring. But I wanted the walls to line up with the design where we have these little curves going. And I kind of compromised, and I liked the way it came out. So I'm gonna take one of these out here so we can just kind of fly in. You can see this is where the glass flooring that we've seen, during the whole construction. When we still look down, but what I ended up doing was, first of all, when I did this, the walls were going to come out, and there was going to be this gap here, and I was okay with that at first because then it was a quick way up and down with, the hover pack. But I also wanted, walkways, because I had mentioned this early on in the design when I talked about us having two buildings, that I wanted to have this crisscrossing of walkways between the buildings. So what I ended up doing is making a staircase that goes all the way up. This way, technically, you don't have to have a hover pack to get around the buildings. And this worked out very nicely, so you can come in on a train, or eventually I'll probably move the hypertube that's still over there. But you can, you have a connection here with the ground floor now. And you can take this all the way up, literally all the way to the top of the building. And at every floor there is a crossover. And we just have over here. And I left the railing here because, if you're running around the floor, it's easier to tell where the door is, I guess, by seeing where that railing pops up. It just kind of differentiates it. But every floor, it's kind of in a different place because that's where the stairs come out, and I like it that way. It's so much better that way. It's just, it breaks up kind of the pattern. And then whenever we have a floor, we have a row of windows. Originally, I had a row of walls, and then I was doing windows up in here. But once I started putting in these catwalks, we were able to come up to the edge, and I wanted to be able to look out the windows. So I kind of inverted it. That took so much time. And as far as getting the walls in respect to the conveyors, there was a number of places where I had to just kind of dido a little bit to get it line up with the conveyor wall. And in cases like this, if I had done a double conveyor wall, this would have lined up straight, but then we would have had an empty window for the conveyors, and I didn't like that as much. So I figured, it's okay. It's still pixel perfect. Not everything has to be a straight line, but those all connect. And we've done that through all of the levels. And I did leave a quick access because when I originally wired up all the floors, you can see where all the lighting and stuff like this and all the electrical cables are, they all follow the same pattern. They come over to the glass, they follow that middle line to this outlet right here, which connects to the side, and then the side goes up and down all the way. So I left this open with a little safety railing so that I can still fly up and down with the hover pack super easy, and I'm guaranteed to always have power, during the flight. But this way we can stop off on any floor we want to look at, and we can always, again, if we don't have our hover pack for any reason, or if there are guests touring the building, they can still use a staircase. And see, look how cool that is. This really makes these buildings look monumental. This gave true scale to the buildings. When I was building it, they were just, disparate floating floors, and it was high, but it didn't really give scale to the building. But now that we have walls and we have windows for scale, and we have the now isolated belts that are running back and forth, we can't see what they're connecting to, it really makes it look like two buildings that are working together. This feels like a factory. And I am just so excited by the way it came out. This is everything that I hoped it would be, and I'm just, that's so awesome. Now, I know you might notice there are power lines passing through the walls. Yes, I need to come back through here and set up power connectors to handshake these through the walls. That's something I want to do later. I've been working on this thing for so long. I just want to finish the recording and start editing this so I can get it out for you guys. This is, there's always things I'm doing between episodes to clean things up and, double check stuff and whatnot. That'll get taken care of later. So just don't worry about it. It's not hurting anything. And I decided not to put walls or windows against the lattice work. That's kind of cool, right? We just kind of step out here. I mean, it's super dangerous. But I think it looks better this way. So I went ahead and left it. And, from the inside, it looks just really neat. I think that having, like windows all the way up through here would detract from the appearance of this from the inside of the building. And so I wanted to leave it this way. It's just kind of cool and kind of grand. And the higher up you are, the more awe-inspiring it is, to be able to walk out and look down. And, I love heights. I've mentioned this before. I absolutely love heights. And so this is kind of a wish fulfillment, I guess, for me. I am so happy with it. And the roof. Let's get up there. Here, in the interest of time, I'm just going to jump up there real quick. We tapered in the roof, and I just put some objects on top, because tall buildings tend to have antennas and whatnot. And in fact, you can see the beacon is going through the roof onto that floor because I wanted to control the height of it. I didn't want it the entire thing on the roof. I wanted it to look more like an antenna. You know, there's not even power to it, which I don't want power to it because I want the red flashing lights. And just a couple of lookout towers, which from a distance kind of look like solar panels. I thought that was pretty neat, so I just dotted a couple of them around. But we have this interesting architecture. I'm going to head over here where I know power is. Whoa, look out for the drone. Coming through. So we have this wavy pattern that we did all the way around it. But when we come to the roof, we have an inverted ledge. See how this comes around? And a quarter circle that gives us a little bit of a lip and allows us to have a nice overhang on the inside between the two buildings. And then we just ramp up a little bit, get a glass platform because we wanted to keep that pattern going all the way down as well as going all the way up, because if we're on the inside, we want to be able to look up all the way up to the sky. So it was important that we had this one little extra shelf. But let's jump back over there real quick, get one more good look at it from a distance. And that is our final design. Wow. Tell me that isn't gorgeous. I love it. Oh, one more thing I forgot to show you. The sides of the building. My goodness, how did I forget that? I think the best way to show you, parachute. So we have a different pattern on the side. And this, oh man, how cool that is. Oh, that came out so good. You know, the width of the buildings are different on the sides than on the front and the back. Oops. Don't plummet to our death. And so it did this little looping pattern, and it just came out beautifully. I just loved it. I love the way it came out. It's almost like a giant chain going right up the middle of it. And, you know, given how industrial the building is, I felt like it was really appropriate. So this is, you know, I mean, it's too bad we can't see that from over there. But it's there, you know it's there, and we can just keep that in mind and appreciate how awesome it is. All right. I know we are wildly over time. There's been so much that we've gotten done in this episode, and this is going to wrap it for Turbo Motors. So let's go back home and wrap the episode. All right, quick outro. Turbo Motors are done. Well, they're done for you guys. You know, I still got to go back and, like I said, do a little bit cleanup work. But it's working great. All the machines are running at 100%. I had to add an additional train for the nitrogen gas because the one train wasn't getting there and back fast enough because we're using a lot of it. But beyond that, all the other products seem to be delivering fast enough to supply the machines. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this lengthy and a little bit more in detail series on one of the products, because these late game projects really do take a lot of work, and I didn't want to just gloss over it and make it look trivial, while at the same time showing that even though it can seem daunting, just breaking it down and tackling each stage one at a time will eventually get you there, and that all those steps can be fun. It doesn't have to just be about the end goal, because ultimately that's why we're playing this game, right? Now, as far as the next project, I haven't actually mapped that out yet. We have 2 or 3 options, and I'm going to look over the spreadsheet and try to build a game plan for what product we're going to do next. What I do know is that before we start our next project, we're going to have to go back to the space elevator manufacturing area and shift over a bunch of machines, connect some storages to them, and get the next piece of it started. So expect that that's what we'll probably start off with in the next episode. So if you've enjoyed this episode, and if you've enjoyed the way we put together the whole Turbo Motors series, do stop by and leave a comment. I know it took us some time to complete this one project, but as a content creator, this is something that we need to explore to determine what kind of pacing works best for our audience, as well as our production schedule. And the best way we can know is by your feedback. So let me know what you thought of this entire project. If you caught the whole thing, or if you just caught part of it, if you skimmed over each episode just to see what the final stage was for that episode, let me know. It helps with the pacing and helps me better craft what you're going to want to see in the video versus what I do off camera. But thank you very much for your time. Be sure to leave a like, and I really hope to see you in a future episode. If you enjoyed this, you may want to check out one of these other videos, and thank you very much for your time.